Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo, and I'm always excited to be on this show where we discuss all things books. Now I've got a very interesting one, a very exciting one with me here. It's titled The Challenge to Perform. I'll be introducing this and its author very soon. But let me read something from page 17 of this book. Call it results, call it an outcome, call it expectations, call it rewards, or whatever the descriptive. Everything we do invariably comes down to performance. In the end, you will be judged by your production in any field you have chosen. In virtually every facet of life, performance rings through. When parents send their children to school, it is about performance. When voters cast their ballots in an election, it is usually a referendum on performance. Regardless of the political figures involved, when a company employs a person, it is about certain performance expectations. When you start a business, it is about profitable performance. When you invest in shares, it is about performance of returns. When you buy a new equipment, it's about performance, and so on. Performance, performance, performance. From the moment our parents send us to school, they expect us to perform. Everybody expects us to perform. We expect ourselves to perform. It's a world of performance, and that is just a tiny little glimpse into this exciting book titled The Challenge to Perform, written by Ubong. Essien. In the 1990s, Ubong decided to dedicate himself to motivating Nigerians and people around the world to pursue and realize their dreams. That commitment led to speaking engagements, seminars, conferences, books, articles, write-ups, and so on, to the extent that he became known as Nigeria's Mr. Motivator. And just when we thought Ubong had retired, he bounced back with this classic book, The Challenge to Perform. Let's get to meet with Ubong once again and enjoy the conversation we had with him.
Ubong Essien is a certified speaking professional and an author. Essien is the Dean, the School of Eloquence, a public speaking training center based in Lagos and London. As the first and only CSP in West Africa, Essien is a member of the National Speakers Association in the United States and the American Society for Training and Development, ASTD. Essien, popularly known as Nigeria's Mr. Motivator, has worked as a speaker, trainer, facilitator, and consultant to several private and public organizations in Nigeria. He's the author of Speak with Power, Dare to Dream and Succeed, and The Gateway to Riches, among others. Ubong joins Channel's Book Club to discuss his book, The Challenge to Perform.
Ubong Essien, nice to have you on Channel's Book Club.
As always, Kunle, it's good to be here.
Again.
Again, yes. This is my third. This is my third rodeo with you, Kunle.
It's your third time.
Oh, that's great. It's really good.
And it's always exciting. Always exciting. Always. I wish we could have you here every week.
I'd be delighted. You know, I speak for a living, so it would only be my pleasure.
Great, great.
And I must say as well, you've done such a great job.
Thank you.
Of this entire assignment.
Thank you.
Of dealing with literature. Fantastic, great work.
Thank you. Thank you. And you've done it again, the challenge to perform. You've done it again. A motivational. Now, this word is miscellany. I've seen quite a number of interesting things in your book. One of them is motivationalists. Okay. So you're going to tell me about that. But it's interesting what you've done over the years. You've been in this motivational business for decades, consistently.
Since 1999.
1999. You've seen it all, and you've done it all.
It's been
well done.
Thank you.
Now, give us an insight into this book. What's the story behind this book?
Okay. Well, around 1999, I used to go to Ojuelegba. You know a bit of my story. We've been together for some time. And I would go under the bridge and I would buy books. used books by a lot of these diplomats who were leaving the country. And I stumbled on a very important book that changed my life. And I guess that's why I like the payoff of your program, that one great book can actually change your life. That book was titled Managing, by a man named Harold S. Genin. Harold S. Genin was reputed for taking a company that we used to know as ITT from being a medium-sized company in one country between 1959 to 1977 to becoming perhaps the biggest conglomerate globally. In fact, it was this era that began the concept of conglomeration. So a small company of less than $1 billion became worth 17 billion under his watch, with over 80 in over 80 countries, with over 100 subsidiaries. And in that book, this was Harold S. Genin writing, telling his story about how he did it. I stumbled on a very important phrase. Harold S. Genin said, "Words are words, but performance is your only reality." That, sparked a series of chain reactions.
Performance is your only reality.
And he said, in business, words are words, plans are plans, ideas are ideas.
At
but
the end
the
of the
only
day,
reality
it's
that
your
matters
performance.
is performance. So I think that really began to help me design what I was going to be speaking on as a motivationalist. Beginning from 1999, then of course I was publishing the Achievers Manual. So that set the stage for me that all I needed to do to help people was to challenge them to perform. So about 20 years after, what you have in the book is a bringing together of all of my work, corporate work, social work, the entire gamut of my work as Mr. Motivator into one book to say, well, this is a reflection. That's why it's called a motivational miscellany and described as the challenge to perform, because in the end, performance is our only reality.
Now, the challenge to perform. Is there a challenge to perform? Let's start from there, because the title is fascinating, and in many ways it sums up a lot of things you've written here. So let's start from there, the challenge to perform. There is a challenge to perform.
Absolutely. If it were not easy, we will all be performance. Sorry, if it were easy, I beg your pardon, we will all be performance. It's because every context we find ourselves, business, politics, social, enterprise, or even in the workplace, there is always the expectation factor. You have been employed, you're challenged to perform as the lead of the Channels Book Club for over 10 years now, I believe. The reason why you're still at it is because every month, every year, you find newer ways to raise the bar on yourself to keep this program relevant. And therefore, you surmount that challenge and you keep performing, because performance itself is actually a lease. It's not a permanent entitlement. It is a lease that the marketplace gives to you for a season as a reward that you've done well so far, but remember to come back at the appropriate time to renew this lease if you are to stay relevant. So, so in all that we do, there is always a challenge to perform because of expectation. Take another scenario. You buy shares. Why do you buy shares? Why do people buy shares?
So the value can increase, and then,
so what happens,
many benefits come from that.
What happens if that expectation isn't met after 3-4 years? What do people do? They dump them.
They dump it.
Because they are referred to as underperforming stocks or non-performing stocks. Why do we hire? Why do we fire? All because of an embedded sense of expectation.
Performance.
If people do not meet the expectation, which in itself is the challenge, we either replace them. And as you would find in the book, the first page of the book carries the photograph of a one-season coach of Barcelona, Gerardo Martino. After one season of being a coach at FC Barcelona, realizing that it was truly a challenge to perform and that he did not meet, he apologized by saying, as He was being sacked. He said, I am sorry.
Sorry, I was unable to
unable to deliver. Period. So that is the marketplace of life. Whether you are in business or you work in an organization or you operate in a social context, life is constantly providing us with all sorts of challenges in expectation of performance.
Ubong, let's come right down to, I mean, this is a hard-hitting book you've written here.
That's what I do to keep people hard.
This is a hard-hitting book. Now, let me read from the very first chapter. This is how you start this book. Call it results, call it an outcome, call it expectations, call it rewards or whatever descriptive. Everything we do invariably comes down to performance. In the end, you will be judged by your production in any field you've chosen. This is the hard reality of life, isn't it?
That's it. In fact, that opening phrase summarizes the essence of the entire book, that in the end, you may be the finest person in town, you may have been the one to come up with the finest plans, the brightest of ideas, you name it. But what do we have on the table in the end? It comes down to performance. Politics, business, you name it.
Every field of life.
It comes down to
It's
performance.
how you perform.
That's right.
You know, it's a very tough truth. And then, maybe I can't find where you wrote that, but somewhere in the book you wrote that it is important to teach every child this reality.
Absolutely.
Because that's what the world is about.
That's it.
At the end of the day, boy, when you grow up, it's all about, even before they grow up.
Absolutely.
Because you wrote here that even when we send our children to school and they come
That's
back
right.
with their results, it's about how they perform.
It's about performance. It is expected every strata of life. The argument for performance and its expectation, which is the challenge, can always be made. Why do you pay such an amount of money for your child's school fees? You are expecting an outcome. You know it. You may not openly announce it, but you know it, and you're waiting for the end of term when they provide you with that paper that carries your son's name. And the first thing you go up to is maybe, where do they have position? Where do they have this or that? How did he fare? It's a performance expectation because you made an investment. You want an outcome. And if that performance expectation is not being met, you want to find out why. So we teach kids very early to understand that the world will not accept their excuses, but their capacity to deliver.
The world is very harsh on those who do not perform, isn't it?
It's called the real world. Absolutely. It is.
Okay, let me read. Let me read so many quotes, You wrote here in page 19, the challenge to perform must rouse us daily if we don't want to end up perishing. It's the words you use that's, perishing. Success is a very perishable commodity.
Absolutely.
You picked those words carefully, right?
It's deliberate. I have a mantra, and my children know that, especially my daughter. Every time she tells me, Daddy, perform or perish. For me, it's important to use these words very strongly as a motivationalist, because all through the years I was doing corporate work, giving motivational keynotes, people in sales, organizations. What they were expecting was, look, Ubong, we want to go into this business. Our shareholders want results. The board is breathing down our necks. Then you've got to tell them the hard truth. And so we do not say perform or perish in the sense that, well, the skies will fall tomorrow or what have you. But we're saying that there will be an inevitable outcome. And it might not be palatable if you have not met the performance expectation. So know what is expected of you. Do the hard work, apply the principles, and get the results. That's how you remain in business. That's how you remain relevant. That's how you remain important. And that's how you can feel fulfilled as a person and know that life is in itself a meaningful experience or encounter.
Many companies, many organizations struggle with underperformance. Employee quality, if I may use that expression, is a big problem in Nigeria. You find a lot of business owners and top managers telling you it's a big headache.
Yeah.
Underperformance, underperformance, underperformance. Why so?
Well, if you look at our context, we do have an issue with quality, no doubt about it. Overall, in terms of manpower, you find it everywhere. In business, in government, as you know, I'm active in government now as well. You find it there, and it is a problem. But as a chief executive, as the leader, if you are in it, you own it. You cannot tender that as the reason for failure to deliver.
At a national level, is this problem because of an absence of what you described in this book as performance philosophy? I know in the very first page where I think in the dedication or the gifts autograph page, okay, where this is a copy you gave to me, but I'm always looking for expressions and ideas in books when I'm reading. So I saw this where you wrote here, I trust that you will find in the pages of this book a truly uplifting experience and the clarity of mind to embrace the performance philosophy. So I had to note that. So as a country, is there an absence of that culture? Is that why there is so much, with all due respect to our country, there's a lot of mediocrity in governance, in public service, in so many...
In business, in culture,
in business, yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I asked my mentor, Professor Patu, told me to get me a book written by a man named Professor David C. McClelland, titled The Achieving Society. And that book explained why America became so great. That within the American environment, you had a critical population of individuals who were aspirational, who were motivated, so they became entrepreneurs. They established a lot of things that set the basis for driving a sense of achievement in that country. So you have the mindset of the American dream. Americans believe anywhere they go, they can do anything, they can achieve anything. Nigeria needs to get on that kind of a path. So that achievement becomes a way of thinking. Achievement becomes a philosophy, a driving factor in people's mindsets. That will address the issues of mediocrity. It will address all of the other issues of, oh, I have this person, therefore I have this opportunity. More and more people, whether it's in business, in government, name it, in every field of human endeavor within the country, will move in that direction and will begin to see results replicated. But it takes time. It can even take an entire generation. America did not do it overnight.
Well, the unstoppable laws of success, the serious business of making resolutions, right attitudes for self-employment. It takes time, the power of focus, dare to dream and succeed, being the best, from caterpillar to butterfly, and so on and so forth. Exciting chapters. Ubong, thank you very much for joining us on Channels Book Club. And I hope everybody out there will pick up a copy of this and read.
I hope so as well.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Kunle, for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Great pleasure.
Well, I'm sure you enjoyed that. So much to discuss when you are with Ubong Essien. Time is never enough. But you can find a lot of the things he said and much more in his book, The Challenge to Perform. So get yourself a copy and then start digging into it. It's going to be worth your time, I assure you of that. Now, our friends at Alliance Française, did I pronounce that well? I tried to do a course in French, and all I came out with was bonjour, au revoir, ça va bien, merci, vous parlez français. I wish I could speak French. I'm going back because I'm determined to learn how to speak French. So maybe after I'm done, I'll come back on this show and do it in French from start to finish. Well, our friends at Alliance Française, they are doing wonderful things with regards to promoting literature and reading and culture and art in Nigeria. Such wonderful stuff that they are doing. We were there recently for an event and we had a lot of fun. Enjoy this.
Sophie Bouillon, a French journalist, has hosted her friends and book lovers to the launch of her newest book, Manoa Street, at Alliance Francaise, Lagos. Manoa Street is a non-fiction narrative of Bouillon's career and personal experience as a resident in Lagos during the COVID-19 lockdown. The 108-page book narrates how the ever-busy Lagos was rocked by eviction, explosion, pandemic, and protest in 2020. Bouillon, while revealing that she wrote Manoa Street for 6 months, explains the inspiration behind the book.
When COVID happened, actually, I just covered two very traumatic events, which was the demolition of Takwa Bay, which for AFP we were the first ones to arrive. And honestly, it was I talk about it in the book, but it was very difficult. And then I covered the explosion, the gas explosion. I don't know if you remember in Abule Ado. That happened just before the lockdown, and I was like, I couldn't stand Lagos anymore. Like I was like, I'm fed up. Like it's too hard, it's too violent, it's too difficult to cover this kind of stuff, and especially after 5 years at AFP. And the book is built, so this is kind of the climax, I would say, of the book. And after this part, it's more like calming down and remembering why we're here.
Shikshikuma reads an extract from the book.
It was in 2014, shortly after the Africa Rising cover of Time magazine. Everybody was looking at Africa like it was the new frontier, a land bursting with possibilities. I had read Chimamanda Adichie's Americana and Half of a Yellow Sun. The great Ben Okri's novels had been revelatory to me. People were dancing to Two-Face's African Queen across clubs in the continent. Davido and Wizkid were just on the rise, but their tracks were on repeat on every radio station. These voices were new. We had never heard anything like that before. All my African friends exploring their roots and all the Africanist journalists I knew were all talking about this crazy country, about this country so different, so strong and powerful, so fascinating that it's almost frightening. There is such an energy in Lagos, they said, but the descriptions usually stop there, as if words couldn't capture the rest.
The French journalist, while explaining her passion to debunk misconceptions about Africans, speaks about her choice to stay in Lagos.
I've changed, it's 8 years now that I came to Nigeria, and Nigeria helped me to, build the confidence, to build some dreams that I never thought that I would have. I mean, there's this energy.
Guests present applaud Bouillon's commitment to factual reportage and her courage to write the book.
The way you see other people coming to other people's country and soul tears and apple of discord and all. She was a human being. Her stories, her coverage, it has a soul, just like the book you're reading today. So because of that, I felt so confident to say, if I ever want to write a book about the answers, which has not been written till today, when we write the book, I would want to sit down with Sophie, who was there long before the protest. We walked the street, we went to places, we engaged authorities together. She was with me with a camera, passionately asking me if I was okay.
Bouillon came to Lagos for the first time in 2014 and worked for 5 years as a deputy bureau chief at Agence France Presse. She currently works for RFI Hausa. Manoa Street is her third book.
They have a lot of events lined up. So you might want to find out what is next at Alliance Francaise. This is where we have to end the show today. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.